Hey everyone, thanks for joining me. Today I wanted to discuss what I believe could be a viable moveset for the newest version of Link in Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo Switch. He's been updated with his Breath of the Wild model, obviously, and this could change up his moveset quite a bit. And I've got a lot of new ideas that I'd like to share with you. I'll start with his specials. For Link's new up special, I feel that Rivali's Gale would be a perfect choice for this. It's pretty much the only vertical ascending sort of move that he has in Breath of the Wild, so it just makes sense to have it as his up special. You wouldn't have to jump and then charge it like you do in Breath of the Wild. It could be activated from the ground or mid-jump, whatever, like any other up special. And the only difference is that it won't create an updraft below it, because I don't think that's very necessary. I'll get into the Divine Blessings a little bit later on, but this being one of the Divine Blessings, it'll have a 3-time use before entering a short cooldown mode. And at the top of Rivali's Gale, it'll always transition into a paraglider, just like it does in Breath of the Wild. And again, that's something I'll discuss later on. For his side special, I'm sort of iffy on this, but I believe maybe the Sneak Strike might be a good choice to throw in there. If you were to attack from the front, it would be a slow attack that just deals damage and slightly knocks back the enemy, such as a regular smash attack or whatever. But if you're able to launch the attack from the back, the enemy will take substantially more damage and be paralyzed briefly, and then that'll be your chance to follow up with a smash attack or another special, whatever. And this is where I have two different routes that Nintendo could take. There's an easy route and a better, more awesome route that they could take with these specials. More complicated, but cooler. For the easy route on the down special, they could stick with bombs and have round and square bombs. And it'll just rotate between the two as you use it, and then you throw them and they blow up, just as it used to in the other, previous Smash Bros. Games. And for his standard special, it would be the Great Eagle Bow with different types of arrows. And I sort of think a percentage chance sort of thing for changing the arrow would be a good fit. So it'd be standard arrows most of the time, but you'd have about a 20% chance of shooting a fire, ice, or electric arrow, and then it'll affect the enemy accordingly. And then a very small chance, maybe 5% chance of a bomb arrow that'll blow up in the face of your enemy and send them flying. But if Nintendo wanted to take a more complex route to make Link more, more in-depth. Sorry, that's sort of a weird way to say it. But give him more variety. His down special would be a rune change, so you can choose between all your runes. This is, again, just like Shulk, how he changes his arts. But Link would change his runes, so between square bombs, round bombs, stasis, magnesis, and cryonis. And whenever you change between these runes, they stay until you change it again. And then this will bring us to our standard special for him, which is using said rune that you have applied. So for the first one would be the square and round bombs. The square bombs obviously will not roll, whereas the round ones do. And in your rune swap, you can choose between the two of these as opposed to it just swapping between uses. And you would throw it and then trigger the explosion with B, just as in the game, so it's not necessarily on impact. And then with the stasis beam, you'll shoot out a stasis shot in front of you, and if your enemy is hit, they'll be frozen for a short while, and then you can attack them and build up damage just as you would on an enemy or a boulder or an item in Breath of the Wild. And then depending on how much damage they take, they'll go flying. For Magnesis, I had a little bit of trouble thinking about how this would play in Smash Bros, where you don't have miscellaneous metal items like chests and bars and stuff hanging around in the world like you do in Breath of the Wild. So what I came up is when you activate Magnesis, Link will be pinned in his current spot and not be able to move. But once you activate it, he will lift up an object which just spawns from the ground. And then you use the control stick to control that object, and then you can smack enemies in the face or whatever with it. And then this item will be a random spawn, just like how Peach's turnip is sort of random. You'll get barrels, chests, and maybe rarely even a big bridge piece or whatever those large metal objects are that you use to make bridges. And then once you're done with it, you can use B to launch that object in the direction it's facing, and it'll have more velocity for smaller objects and less for bigger ones, obviously. Cryonis will work largely the same as it does in Breath of the Wild, although for the sake of Smash Brothers, you will be able to spawn ice anywhere, regardless of if there's water or not. I just feel like that'll be necessary to have this be in his moveset. But what it does is if you're on the ground, you will spawn an ice block below you, and these ice blocks will do minimal DOT damage over time to enemies that are close to it and or touching it. And if Link is in the air, maybe hugging a wall or something, it'll spawn one out of the wall, and then he can land on it. So this will be good for saving yourself if you're on the side of the map or whatever about to fall to your death. And that about covers it for the specials. Alright, and now I want to move on to his standard and smash attacks. For his standard A attacks, I believe these will largely stay the same as they have in previous Smash games because there's really not much difference. He still has his Master Sword. He moves in the same fashion as he does in previous games. The only thing I think would be different is a standard A combo because he does have a 3-hit combo with the sword in Breath of the Wild. As you can see, it's slightly different than what it was in previous Smash games, so I think this would be an easy change to make. As for his aerials, these can largely stay the same as they have as well. They'll just probably want to tweak his character model to move more the way he does in Breath of the Wild. As for his grabs, as I mentioned before, Link doesn't have his hook shot, so he can't grab enemies from a distance anymore. He would need another method of grabbing, and just as 90% of the other characters have in Super Smash Bros., he can just run up and grab them with his hand and then attack from that point. And again, it would make sense for his grab throws to be pretty much the same as they have been in previous games. For his smash attacks, I imagine him switching weapons just as you can switch in Breath of the Wild. As you can see in Breath of the Wild, when you swap weapons, time freezes. So time freezes for Link, but not everyone else. So you can just imagine how it looks to the enemies. Link is holding his Master Sword, and then all of a sudden, boom, he has a spear in his hand and starts attacking you. And so for his side smash, I feel that he would use a spear, or more specifically the ceremonial trident, as it plays a fairly big role in the game. He'll do the spear charge attack, and it's a 3-hit combo, launching the enemy after the 3rd hit. Pretty simple. For his down smash, I feel like this will be where they bring in the spin attack, since they got rid of it with Rivali's Gale being the up special. It makes sense because he charges with the sword down by his side and then spins. It's attacks both sides like many Smash Bros. Characters do with their down smash. And for his up smash, I think the Boulder Breaker or similar weapon would be a good choice for this. Although in the Breath of the Wild, he doesn't actually hit upwards. I feel like that movement that he does could easily be tweaked and launch the opponent upwards as opposed to a downward hit with the Boulder Breaker. Okay, now that I've touched on Link's standard moves and special moves, including his smashes, I think I can move on to his final smash. This would be a great opportunity to put something big and flashy in, because, at least to me, his final smashes in the previous 2 games have been pretty bland. I think a good final smash for this Breath of the Wild Link would be the attack that the Divine Beasts launch on Ganon at the start of your final fight. This gives Link an opportunity to have a super flashy move. The way that it would work is you'd have to capture your opponents just in front of him, just like most other Final Smash attacks are. But once you do, they get stuck into a cutscene where it shows all the Divine Beasts like it does in the game, and then they launch their team attack and create a giant beam of light that deals dot damage and then sends the opponents flying. And then this obviously will be a balanced move. It's not going to be as damaging as it looks. It's mostly just for the flashy cutscene. All right, this is where things get a little interesting. In my theoretical moveset for Link here, he has a few unique mechanics, which include the Divine Blessings, which I've already briefly touched on with Rivali's Gale, and he will also have Stamina and his Paraglider. So with the Divine Blessings, just as they are in Breath of the Wild, after a certain amount of uses, they will go into a cooldown mode. So with Rivali's Gale, I've already described how it would work, but I feel that the cooldown would be initiated after 3 uses, but it's a very short cooldown since the ability isn't very overpowering. Maybe when his Rivali's Gale is on cooldown, he'll just do some sort of third jump slash or something similar to maybe Marth's up B. And then there's Mipha's Grace. I'm sort of iffy about this one because protecting Link from death in Super Smash Bros. Is pretty overpowered. So in Super Smash Bros., Mipha's Grace will work like this. It'll protect Link from being KO'd off the screen once per stock. So once he goes flying off the screen, he'll get respawned in the center of the stage as if he was respawning normally. And then it'll play the animation of Mipha in the bubbles and helping him get back up. But it won't actually recover his HP like it does in the game. That's a way that I think it could be balanced. And then there's Daruk's Protection. So just like in Breath of the Wild, whenever Link is shielding, Daruk's Protection will be activated. So if Link takes a melee attack, the attack will be nullified and the opponent will get knocked back a little bit, but only very briefly. Maybe long enough to put in a standard combo, but probably not a smash attack. But the strength of Daruk's Protection is only as much as a normal shield. For example, if he were to take a fully charged Samus Blast with Daruk's Protection activated, it'll still deflect the shot, but the shield might break. And then Link will go into his shield break state. And then with that one, I believe it'll have 2 hits before it enters its cooldown. And then there's Urbosa's Fury, which will add an electric surge around Link whenever he performs a smash attack, just like how in Breath of the Wild, whenever he uses a charge attack, it'll activate it. The area of effect won't be as big as it is in Breath of the Wild. That's just a way to balance it out a little bit. It'll have its own mini cooldown, so you have to wait maybe 4 or 5 seconds in between smash attacks for it to activate again. And then it'll have 2 uses before entering its regular cooldown state. And as for his last unique mechanics, there's the Stamina Bar and the Paraglider. They sort of work in tandem, I suppose. I feel that having a Stamina Bar will balance out all these other mechanics and powerful moves that Link might have. So whenever you use a smash attack, just as in Breath of the Wild when you use a charge attack, it'll use up some of the Stamina Bar. And also when using your Paraglider. It won't go down when you're sprinting, but that will lower the rate of refresh. So if you launch a smash attack and then start sprinting away, it'll refresh slower than it would if you're standing there or just walking leisurely. And then, just as with Peach and her floating mechanic, whenever you jump and hold down the jump button with Link, he'll pull out his Paraglider and sort of coast along the air just as he would in Breath of the Wild. And this will constantly use up stamina, so you got to keep an eye out, because if Link does run out of stamina, he'll enter a tired state where he can't do anything except walk slowly around until his stamina refreshes. Alright guys, that's all I've got for my theoretical moveset for Link and Super Smash Bros. For Nintendo Switch. If there's anything that you feel like I might have missed or anything you want to add, please comment below. I want to hear everyone's thoughts on this. I personally think that Link is going to be completely reworked in this game, although this is more of a pie in the sky, how can I describe it? This is my wish list Link moveset. I doubt they're going to do anything close to this, but it's fun to think of. So yeah, if there's anything else that anyone else thinks of, feel free to comment below. Thanks for tuning in, guys.